Yo, what's good, everybody? How you guys doing? I forgot to put the music up. That's okay. But I'm a little off today. I'm kind of tired. I woke up. I've been having trouble sleeping, so I woke up like at 3 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't go back to sleep. And then I tried to take naps and I couldn't take naps. I couldn't fall asleep. It's all messed up. But tonight will still be a great show. We got some cool stuff to talk about. And yeah. And Kira Davis is having a very interesting conversation with John Cardillo right now. So maybe I'll comment on that on Friday, on my Friday live stream. But I'm glad she's doing it. So great stuff. And yeah, so on today, we're going to be talking about a few different things. I'm going to be talking about, talking about unemployment benefits, the enhanced federal unemployment benefits. Going to talk about some other issues that are going on. I'm just pulling up my notes here real quick. And we're going to talk about attitudes on the Democratic Party, according to a recent poll that came out. And then we're going to deal with a little theory that I have, or something that I want people to consider and think about going forward. But before I get started, as always, if you want to support my work, please join my online community. It's a monthly subscription, only $4.99 per month, and you get access to content that others don't get that goes behind the paywall. So you can join my online community at afreshperspective.locals.com. And also, if you want to give a one-time donation, then the links are up here. Oh, they'll be up there in a second as soon as StreamYard gets it together. Come on. Or maybe it won't. But the links are also in the show notes as well, my CashApp and my Venmo. So we're going to have a good time today. There it is. All right. Let's see. Let me pull up my notes here. Where's my OnlyFans link? Yeah, I have to set up my OnlyFans still. I mean, I'm trying to put together some content, trying to get some, some thong underwear that, might look good, that kind of thing. But I'll do it when I'm ready, all right? Okay, great. So, first thing I'm going to talk about, this is an article from LibertyNation.com. It was written by Andrew Moran, one of my favorite Canadians, and also the only libertarian living in Canada. Probably. I don't think there's a whole lot of libertarians in Canada, but he wrote an article, and the link is in the show notes if you want to follow along or if you want to read it later. I'll be quoting from it. And we were talking about the push to end unemployment benefits, the ones, the special ones that the federal government passed for the for COVID-19 relief. And what's happening, it's kind of bearing out what people have been saying, right? Remember there was this whole debate on federal benefits and whether or not it was keeping people from going back to work. And there are some indications that it was. I mean, the Biden administration were saying, oh no, people aren't going back to work because they're afraid of coronavirus or because schools were still locked down. And I'm not saying that didn't contribute to it, but at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that we are paying people to stay home. In a lot of cases, people are making more money by staying home than they would going to work. So let me scroll down here. So from the article, Andrew writes, quote, many Republican-led states, such as Alabama, Georgia, Iowa, South Dakota, and Texas, scrapped the program over the last 2 months to push out-of-work Americans to find employment. Indiana wanted to abolish at least one of the pandemic-related jobless programs, alluding to ubiquitous worker shortages. However, a state judge ruled that the benefits must continue until a lawsuit challenging the decision works its way through the justice system. Several more states are planning to do away with them by the end of July. Now, these additional federal benefits are set to expire on September 6th, but states can opt out of them whenever they want. So that's what's happening here. Now, Andrew also writes, quote, that said, considering that the U.S. economy is now experiencing a record number of job opportunities, it might not be too difficult to locate white or blue-collar work. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the number of job openings has soared to an all-time high of 9.29 million, with most of the positions available in accommodation and food services and manufacturing. Now, I'm going to reference a piece that I wrote on this very issue. Let me pull it up here. And this one actually comes from the Wall Street Journal. And the Wall Street Journal, they quote a study from an economist at a prominent firm, and they are showing that jobless claims in states that have gotten rid of the benefits, jobless claims are going down. Go figure. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Now, let's see. As of right now, about 21 states have already ended the beefed up benefits or will end the benefits. And one of the experts, her name was Anita Markowska, she said, quote, "You're starting to see a response to these programs ending." Workers, they can still receive unemployment benefits from the state, but they just won't get that extra $300 per week or however much it was. And, excuse me. My phone keeps ringing. But it is showing that now these benefits are starting to, I'm sorry, let me back up. It's showing that basically people are going back to work now that these benefits are ending. So it might be possible that we'll see other red states or Republican-led states cut out the benefits in order to ensure that people get back to work, because a lot of businesses are struggling, especially small businesses who have been hit by the coronavirus pandemic and other issues. I mean, I'm sure you saw a lot of businesses were even offering bonuses or cash incentives for people to just come in and do an interview. Some raised their hourly wages to entice more workers to come back, but it's really hitting small businesses the hardest. So hopefully this will be a sign that, you know, that there's going to be more to come. Now, what's interesting, though, is that some people are pushing back on this, and they filed lawsuits in Indiana, also in Texas, and they're trying to basically say, no, we need to get the benefits back. We need to get them for longer. And because here's the thing. I mean, if these are allowed to continue, I have no doubt that the Democrats will try to extend them even beyond September, because that's what they do. They want people more dependent on the government, and they're not as concerned about small business or getting back to normalcy. And I think that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the United States getting closer to normal than we were before. And some people are pushing back on it. Like, I've been even hearing some whispers of this Delta variant, and people want to use that as an excuse to continue to enforce mask mandates. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to use it to reimpose shutdowns, even though I saw a poll saying that about 61 or 64% of Americans don't want the government to do anything extra, even though there's this other variant. So I think the people who want to continue the lockdowns and to continue what's going on under the under the pandemic, they're starting to lose this battle, because people are like, nope, this is enough. We need to get back to normal. I mean, here in Texas, there aren't a whole lot of places where I even have to wear a mask when I go in anymore. Like the coffee shop where I go to work, nobody's wearing masks. Even the workers have stopped wearing masks. In a lot of restaurants, the employees are still wearing masks, but you're seeing it less and less. So it looks like we are getting back to normal, and hopefully that doesn't get derailed. But honestly, I think by now people are just kind of sick of living under these lockdowns. We've been doing it for over a year, right? So it's about that time, right? So what do you guys think? That was kind of a short version there. Let's see. All right. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that. That one's not like a huge story, but I did think it was interesting. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is a recent poll that I wrote about that measured American attitudes on several different issues, especially pertaining to the Democrats and President Joe Biden. And if the results of the study are true, which I think they are, it's got some bad news for Democrats, especially when it concerns the midterm elections and even 2024. Now, the activist media, obviously, they're still trying to convince everybody that everybody loves President Joe Biden and yada, yada, yada. But this is happening gradually, I think, but it's becoming more clear that the honeymoon period is over, and now we're starting to see a little bit of a decline in his popularity. And a recent survey, again, done by Harvard and Harris. So this isn't Rasmussen, right? This isn't a conservative-leaning poll. Harvard is obviously on the left, and it measured a lot of different opinions on a lot of different things. I don't have them all in here. President Biden's approval rating is still not horrible, but it is starting to decline. One poll last week had him at the same level as Trump was during this time in his presidency. But the difference is that Trump didn't have a fawning media, a media that was there to protect him. Joe Biden has a media that is covering for him as best as they can, regardless of how he messes things up, right? So the first thing that I want to highlight is that 80% of Americans believe that illegal immigration is a serious issue. Obviously, this would include Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and the respondents also indicated that the issue deserves more attention than the Biden administration is giving it. 68% of participants indicated that they believed that the president is encouraging illegal immigration. And 55% said that they believed that former President Donald Trump's immigration policies should have remained intact. So it's acknowledging that Americans do consider illegal immigration to still be a serious issue, and they don't believe that the Biden administration is doing everything that it can to deal with the problem. And the fact that the majority of Americans believe that Trump's immigration policies should have remained in place is telling. Because, when President Trump was in office, you had the media attacking him over his immigration policies, and there are things that I think he did wrong in that regard as well. But overall, he had the right approach. But now you have the Biden administration, who essentially signaled to people who might be thinking about making the journey to the southern border that they would get the red carpet rolled out. I've talked about this a lot. But Mark Penn, he was a pollster that put the study together. And in the report, he wrote, quote, 64% of registered voters want the Biden administration to issue new, stricter policies to reduce the flow of people across the border. Only 7% of voters could accurately call out the amount of monthly illegal immigrants crossing into the U.S., with 84% underestimating the number, which suggests that we should expect stronger voter reaction if the crisis evolves further, which it will, because the Biden administration is not doing much to stop this. Mark Penn also writes, quote, overall, 74% of voters view the current surge in illegal immigration in illegal immigrants as a crisis that needs to be addressed immediately. And 56% do not view climate change, racism, and sexism as the root causes of migration from the South and Central America. So that pokes a huge gaping hole in the narrative that the left is pushing. And, when Biden tapped Kamala Harris as the border czar, her job is ostensibly to deal with the root issues of the migrant crisis. However, if she's focusing on that, she's not focusing on the real problem. Yes, that is an issue. There are issues in other countries that are making people want to come here illegally and legally. But you can't ignore the fact that with the changing of the guard, with a new president, that this is changing people's opinions in South and Central America on their chances of being able to gain access to the United States. As a matter of fact, a story that I covered last week on my live stream indicated that this is true. There was a former ICE agent who was interviewing Border Patrol agents, and they said that these people will straight out tell you that the reason that they're coming is because we have a new president, and Biden has signaled that he would be more welcoming. America, and it's very interesting because I think his approval numbers would be going down more if people actually understood how many are coming here. Like the poll said, 84% underestimated the number of migrants that are actually coming. It's hundreds and thousands of people. I believe in May it was about 180,000. And then there's also the unaccompanied minors. And like I brought up this story last week about minors being abused at Fort Bliss here in Texas and in the El Paso area, and the media not covering it. There's a reason why. They don't want Americans to know how big of an impact this is having on our southern border. They don't want them to know how badly it's stretching our Border Patrol agents thin, to the point to where they can't even patrol certain areas because of cartel violence, which means that more people are slipping over the border. Now, here's another issue. Now, you remember how the Biden administration was trying to blame this on Trump and trying to insist that this current migrant crisis is because of his predecessor? Yeah, it turns out people aren't buying that. The survey showed that 61% of Americans believe that the flood of unaccompanied minors was the fault of the Biden administration, which of course it was. There's absolutely no way this could be Trump's fault, right? Trump was telling them not to come and making it known that if they did come, they weren't going to have the best time of it. They're going to get sent back or whatever. Now, on top of that, on another issue concerning spending, 60% of respondents believed that the Biden administration should spend far less than $4 trillion on, the packages that they're rolling out. And they also want him to reduce any increases in taxes and the deficit. Only about 40% indicated that Biden should be spending more than $4 trillion. Now, that's still a big number, but it's definitely not the majority. But you see what's coming down the pike, right? I mean, a lot of the proposals that the Democrats are putting forward would blow out our spending, and it would go well over $4 trillion. So this is already yet another indication, one, that the Democrats are trying to do things that the American public does not want them to do, and they are not listening to their constituents. When it comes to how far left people should go, or how far left our government should go when it comes to taxes and spending and things like that, it measured whether or not people believe that they should follow Bernie Sanders' example. Or they asked whether Biden should be trying to compromise with Republicans. 57% believe that Biden should be trying to work with Republicans and hold the line on taxes rather than following the Bernie Sanders wing of the party and just trying to ram things through. Which, by the way, I mean, they've kind of been trying to do that, but it hasn't worked because of people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and others in the House. Now, here's another point that is interesting. And I tweeted about this a few days ago because I'm still kind of perplexed by it. But the respondents' views on the Republican Party have risen. Approval for the GOP has risen from 43% in March to 53% in June. Now, that's a pretty significant increase, especially when you don't really see Republicans doing a whole lot right now. I'm thinking my hypothesis is that support for the GOP is rising because Democrats aren't getting much done, and the stuff that they want to get done is not very popular. I think Democrats are starting to alienate people rather than the GOP actually earning them, which is better than nothing, but I still think that the Republican Party needs to be doing more, because when it comes time for the midterms, they're going to need to make that case. And they might be able to get away with saying, hey, vote for us, we're not that guy. But what happens when they do win going forward? They have to actually do something. So they should be prepared to put some things into action. This is what happened with Obamacare, if you remember. Before Republicans had control of both chambers of Congress and the presidency, they kept promising that, well, once we elect us, get us into power, and we're going to get rid of Obamacare and provide a free market solution that will make health care easier to access. Well, that happened, and they didn't do jack. So hopefully they're not planning to make that mistake again, because right now things are in their favor. Now, when it comes to issues pertaining to critical race theory, they pulled people on that as well. And they asked whether, quote, kids in elementary school should be taught that America is structurally racist and is dominated by white supremacy. 61% of respondents answered in the negative. Only 39% supported this type of teaching. Now, I know that people on the left like to tell you that they're not teaching critical race theory in elementary schools. And like I've said before, technically they're right. They're not saying, hey, class, let's sit down and talk about Derek Bell and critical race theory. But they are infusing some of the ideas that come from critical race theory into the classroom. And again, I'm not saying every teacher is doing this. I actually don't know how widespread this is, but I know that it is happening enough to elicit valid concerns. So the idea that America is structurally racist and dominated by white supremacy, that is a tenet or a teaching of critical race theory. And people aren't too happy about that. Now, a couple weeks ago, I talked about how the Democrats could be alienating parents, especially white suburban mothers, or actually suburban mothers in general. They could be alienating them because they don't want you don't mess with their kids. Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't want to mess with their kids, and they turned on Trump. But I could easily see that swinging back if the Democrats continue to push this teaching in schools, especially since a lot of them are lying about it. And they're saying, oh, nobody's teaching critical race theory. Well, people know that they're being dishonest about that. Again, I'm not saying that they're going into detail and going into great depth, but we've already seen the news stories come up of school administrations practicing segregation among the kids and among the faculty. We've seen them have assignments where students are identified as either the oppressor or the oppressed, or they're identified as privileged. And regardless of whether this is their intention, that does create a divisive atmosphere in which some are demonized and some are infantilized. Now, there were more aspects of this poll. It did show that a majority of Americans still, I can't remember how big the majority was, they still think that the country is generally moving in the right direction. But I don't think that that's going to save Biden. I do not think that's going to save the Democrats. This poll shows that on major issues that are being discussed right now, people aren't really going along with the Democrats' agenda on this. They're not going along with Biden's agenda on this. And I think that this is going to continue. Like I said, Biden's approval rating is starting to gradually go down. I think we're going to see that happen more in the months to come because, honestly, I don't think he's a competent president. I don't think that his team is competent. And these issues are going to continue to get worse. It's going to get to where the media can't spin the migrant crisis anymore, and they can't really spin much of anything anymore. So what do you guys think? What's happening here? Let's see. California continuing doing mask mandates, claiming the Delta. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, California is going to hold on to this stuff for as long as they possibly can, right? I mean, they want the mask mandates. They want the lockdowns. And I think I heard that they're supposed to continue through the fall. I wouldn't be surprised if the fall comes around, they said, oh, just kidding, we need to keep going until next year. California is very bad with this. Now, I'm not sure how, I haven't gotten any updates from New York. I would imagine that they're doing a lot of the same thing. But even then, I mean, you're still going to have people moving out for that reason because, I like I said, and I said this at the beginning of this whole pandemic, some of these states are going to keep this stuff going for as long as they possibly can, even though they don't need to. Or even when they don't need to, I should say. Let's see. I'm over the lockdown. Yeah, I bet. I think most Americans are, even on the left. I think most Democrats are tired of it. It's time to get back to normal now. Still, I get we still need to take precautions. I'm not seeing any reasons for lockdown orders or sweeping mask mandates. there are still a lot of companies that are requiring masks. Here in Texas, I mean, most of them aren't from what I'm seeing, but some are. Let's see. Nobody's thinking of COVID here anymore. Well, where are you at? What state are you in, Joseph? Texas, Florida? Florida ain't worried about it. Arnold A., we need a complete overhaul of Congress regardless of party. I've been hearing people say that. I wish there was a way to do it. Just kind of just flush everything down the toilet and just put a whole new government in place. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Even though that there's some people in Congress that I like. What else we got? Oh, you're in El Paso. That's right. Okay. Yeah, in Texas. I mean, here in Austin, even though this is a liberal city, I mean, I'm not seeing as many masks. And this city is so blue that, I mean, we had the whole phenomenon with people driving around alone still wearing masks. I think some of these people just like wearing them, to be honest. Let's see. The Democrats are still confident in most of their representatives, so I don't think Biden's approval matters much to diehard liberals. That's probably true, but I mean, the people on the far left are bashing Biden too because he's not going as far to the left as they want him to, and they don't like the fact that he's actually trying to talk to some Republicans to see if they can work something out. So he's getting it on both sides. But yeah, I mean, I think the approval isn't going to matter to a lot of people, but I do think that if this current trend continues, the Democrats are going to get shellacked in 2022. I think that they will lose both chambers of Congress. I think that there's a very good chance that happens. Let's see. Yeah, gas prices are over $3 and rising. In some places over $5. Welcome to Biden's world. Yeah, gas prices went up here in Texas too, but it's not as bad as the rest of the country. All right, let me continue. This one's going to be a little bit of a shorter live stream, but that's okay. So here's a story that I thought was very interesting. And on the surface, it doesn't seem that interesting. But when you dig a little bit deeper and you start thinking a little bit deeper about what's going on here, there might be something really fun that comes up, as we approach 2024. Not so much right now, but in the next couple of years, I think we're going to see something very interesting, and I'm kind of excited about it because, sometimes politics can be very entertaining, and I think that's what's going to happen. So, last week, I think on the 24th, you guys remember Samantha Bee? Apparently, she is still a thing. I didn't know that, but last week, Samantha Bee, she gave her razor-sharp analysis about former President Donald Trump in comparison to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, if you remember, at a major conservative conference, they did a straw poll and asked respondents who their choice for the 2024 presidential nomination would be. And Governor Ron DeSantis he edged out Trump by like 3 percentage points. Trump got 71%, DeSantis got 74%. And in response to this poll, she kind of freaked out a little bit. I mean, she had like a Keith Olbermann style rant going on. And she posted a video of Twitter. Posted a video on Twitter in which she said, quote, "But before you celebrate Republicans turning away from Trump, take a look at all the ways Ron DeSantis could be so much worse." And so again, she had a video where she was going on a whole tirade about him. I won't bore you with all the details. But other people on the left agreed with her. They said, yeah, DeSantis could possibly be worse than Trump. And here's the thing. I agree with them. I wrote an article saying, yes, DeSantis is worse than Trump. And here's why. The Democrats, they know that they're in trouble. I mean, we just went over that poll. We went over all of those poll results. And like I said, their chances of holding both chambers of Congress in 2022 are almost nil, assuming that the Republican Party doesn't get stupid and manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And President Biden is messing up everything that he touches. And again, this is going to affect him in 2024 as well. But Trump has not yet indicated whether or not he's going to run. And my opinion, I think that he won't. That's what I'm predicting. I could be wrong, but we'll see. I think he's enjoying his new role as a kingmaker, and I think he's making moves. You've seen that he's starting to do rallies again. So that's going to be a thing. He's going to be in Dallas for CPAC, which I will be at and I will be reporting on next week. Next Friday through Sunday. Yeah. And here's the thing. If he decides not to run, DeSantis is the front runner, at least right now. Now, a lot of things can happen between now and then, and I think a lot of things will. But either way, DeSantis, they should be more afraid of DeSantis. So the thing about Governor Ron DeSantis, and again, I have some issues with him. I don't agree with him on everything, but certain things have already endeared him to the base. He's not like that squishy. He's not like the squishy establishment Republican type. He's not like the Mitt Romneys, the Liz Cheneys, the John McCains, the George W. Bushes. He's not like them. He has a more pugilistic attitude towards the Democrats and towards the activist media. He doesn't let himself get pushed around. He doesn't take their lies or their insults and with a smile and just say, and then ask for more. He fights back. And again, this is one thing that people loved about Trump. It's things that people still love about Trump. It's something that I like about Trump. He was willing to call the media fake news to their face, and it was beautiful. I didn't always agree with his attacks on the media because sometimes I think he was wrong. But when he was right, he was right. I'm seeing the same thing in DeSantis. But like I've been saying, DeSantis' strength is more about what he doesn't do than what he does do. So yeah, the conservative base has spoken. They want people who are political pugilists. They want brawlers in there. You're not going to get the nomination if you don't have that kind of Trumpian type of swagger when it comes to fighting the battles whether it's cultural battles or battles over COVID or what have you. They want somebody who's going to take it to the left instead of just being nice and squishy all the time. But here's the thing. Trump had a tendency, and what, love him or hate him, like I said before, he has a tendency to get himself into Twitter feuds and get sidetracked by stupid, cultural issues that really he has no business commenting on. That's what he did when he was in office all the time. He would shoot himself in the foot. DeSantis does not do that. DeSantis chooses his battles. He doesn't attack every single slight. He doesn't react to every single criticism that he gets from the media. But when he does choose something to fight about, it's something that he knows he can win. And that's smart. He only chooses battles that he knows he can win. Like remember when 60 Minutes ran that hit piece on him, where they basically lied about stuff that was going on in Florida and it was later shown to be untrue? That was so messed up for them that even other left-wing outlets criticized him for it, and he took that opportunity. And he does this regularly. He's very tough on China. He's tough where people want him to be tough. He has all of Trump's strengths, and he has none of his weaknesses. So, yeah, from the left's point of view, Ron DeSantis is worse than former President Trump because DeSantis will be Trump but more effective. He will be more of an upgrade. This isn't a knock on Trump, but again, DeSantis has his strengths and none of his weaknesses. But here's the thing that I really want to dig into. Come 2024, Ron DeSantis will not be the only one running for the nomination, whether he's the front runner or not. Who else is going to be in that field? Now, we have already seen that the conservative base has rejected the establishment. If Liz Cheney tries to get the nomination, she's going to get skunked. If Adam Kinzinger or any other establishment type tries to get the nomination, they're going to get skunked. Unless some weird act of God miracle happens, an establishment figure is not going to get anywhere close to getting the Republican presidential nomination. The person who will be somebody who's more along the lines of an America First type. But it's more than that. We want brawlers. We want people who are going to do what DeSantis and Trump do. And there are plenty of people in the party who will already do that. And I think between now and then, we're going to see some other names come up that have more of that pugilistic attitude. So Trump is gone, right? I mean, as far as presidential aspirations go, if he doesn't run, he's gone. So it was already enough when the media and the Democrats had to deal with Trump. What's it going to be like when you have 10 people running for the Republican nomination and they're all Trumpian and they're all willing to take the gloves off and take it to the left? What are they going to do? Because even though we'll only have one nominee, the people who end up not getting the nomination, they're still going to be around. Their names are still going to be out there. It could be 10, 15, 5 people. I don't know how many. But what happens when they have to deal with multiple Trumps? You saw how they reacted when it was just one. But when you have multiple high-ranking leaders who have a lot of influence on the right, and they're getting a lot of play, they're getting a lot of airtime, they're getting all the Fox News hits, they're getting all the Newsmax hits and what have you, what happened? How are they going to deal with that? This is what's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be entertaining. Trump is still going to be doing rallies. Well, what happens when these people start doing rallies too? I don't think they'll know how to handle it. Hopefully, it doesn't go overboard and get into areas where it starts to get crazy. But what do you guys think? I mean, what's that going to look like? Because now we're moving from the Trump era into more of the America First, which, by the way, Trump did not start that movement. It was existent before him. He came on the scene and represented that movement, whether he intended to or not. And it's still gaining steam. The establishment, for all intents and purposes, are going to have to take a back seat, except for the ones who are willing to get on that train. The media, I don't think they're going to know what to do with it. I mean, obviously, whoever the nominee is, that will be their main target, right? Because they have to have their boogeyman. They have to have the person that they go after. That's on both sides. But when they have more than one, and these aren't people who are just in it for show, like I'm not talking about like people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like she's a performance artist. I'm talking about people who have that Trumpian aspect to them where they're like, these are my ideas. This is what we need to do. You guys suck. You're all fake news, yada, yada. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? It could actually change how presidential politics look going forward for the foreseeable future. It'll be very interesting to see a whole, almost like a legacy or a dynasty of Republican presidential aspirants who don't behave like the old guard did. Like the days of Bush are gone. You know, the days of Reagan are gone. Like this is a whole new era, and I'm kind of excited to see what it's going to look like. And again, hopefully it doesn't suck. Hopefully I don't end up regretting this. But I think that what we're seeing here is, in what Samantha Bee kind of highlighted accidentally, is that times are a-changing, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it looks. What do you guys think? So is the GOP going to put up Tim Scott for president, or is Trump going to run again, or Tim as vice? I do not think that the base will nominate Tim Scott for president. I think they all like Tim Scott. Everybody likes Tim Scott on the right. But he's not that kind of fighter. He doesn't do that. I mean, unless he has some kind of energy that I don't know about, I don't think so. He's more of a laid back. He's more of like a policy wonk. He's like, let's get some legislation going. Let's see what we can do here. He's great. I like Tim Scott. But first off, I don't even know if he even wants to run. That's one thing. I mean, he has indicated that he doesn't, but that could change. But I could see him being a vice president, because if you remember, it was Trump and then Pence. Pence kind of was a more calm, more pragmatic. He was more of a foil to Trump's bombastic personality. So Tim Scott could definitely take that type of role. If you have more of a measured, bombastic candidate, you could have somebody like Tim Scott to kind of balance that out a little bit because, like I said, he is more laid back. He is a little bit more low key, and he's smart as hell. So I think that if Tim Scott decides to even throw his hat in the ring, or if he decides not to run, but whoever the nominee is decides to tap him as vice president, I could see that happening. What do you think about Trump coming to Texas tomorrow? I haven't really thought about it. I don't really watch the rallies, guys. Like, I know I'm bad. Probably should, but I'm not really into the rallies. I'll get the highlights the day after. Now, when he's in Dallas next week, I mean, I'm obviously gonna watch that. I watched him in CPAC in Orlando, so that'll be interesting. The energy is always very high at these things, so I'm kind of excited to see that. Let's see. Trump didn't care about anyone's opinion. That was his appeal. Yes, it is. And here's the thing. I think he did care, but in some ways he didn't. Like, he does care about what people think of him. I mean, the he's got an ego. He cares about what people think of him, but he's also not afraid to piss him off. There are people that he likes to piss off. So I think that we might have more like that. Let's see. Do you think Trump will encourage one of his kids to run? God, I hope not. I really hope not. I don't want to think about that. I hope not. I could see him doing it, though, but I hope not. If he does, I hope they say no. We don't need a dynasty. We don't need another Bush and Clinton dynasty. No. All right? I mean, why would you even put that into the universe like that? If this happens, if he encourages one of his kids to run and they do, I'm blaming you, Nancy. This is your fault. I never want to see presidential press banquets ever again. I want an honest media with healthy criticism for our leaders. Yeah, I think most of us do, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think any of the Trump kids are popular enough, though. Yeah, I don't either. And I don't think that they have the chops for it. Like, you know, I think that they could probably do more outside of office. And, you know, I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying I don't think it'd be a good strategic idea. I'm sorry. Okay, as far as Trump coming tomorrow, yeah, he's coming to the border, not to do a rally. See, I told you I'm out of it today. I think it's a great thing. I'm not surprised he's doing it. I would have expected him to do it sooner. But it's very good optics-wise, because now he can claim, and he is claiming, that his visit to the border was the reason why Kamala finally went. And I do believe that, by the way. I don't think that she was ever going to go to the border, at least not anytime soon. When Trump said he was going to go, the team was like, all right, Kamala, you got to go. Sorry. Because, yeah, the last place that she wanted to be was at the southern border. This is an interesting point, Malcolm McKee. Trump's skill was in his ability to distract the media from world events. It's how he got those Middle East treaties through without any press building up to it. That might be true, or it might just be the fact that the media didn't want to report on it because it looked like he was going to actually get some stuff done. It could have been both. I don't know. But that is a very good point. Because it seemed like those things kind of came out of nowhere. But obviously we know how these things go, and there's no way that they just came out of nowhere, right? They had been working on it, and they had some very significant successes. And which again is even why after they happened, the media didn't give it a whole lot of attention. By the way, let me put on my tinfoil hat for a second. Remember the debates between Biden and Trump? Remember how the third debate is always supposed to be about foreign policy? But they changed it. Remember? They said, oh no, we're not going to talk about foreign policy. We're going to talk about other stuff. I wonder why. I called it at the time. I'm like, oh, really? So the third debate, which is traditionally about foreign policy, you're going to change that because you don't want to talk about foreign policy. We all know why. Foreign policy under the Obama administration was a complete and utter disaster. It was horrible. And Biden was a part of that. Under Trump's, no new wars. He was able to broker some peace deals. I know people didn't like him withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, but still, he had some accomplishments. He brought some troops home, drew him down a little bit, not as much as he wanted to, and not as much as I wanted him to. But on the whole, he wasn't as bad as his predecessors. That's why they didn't want to talk about foreign policy. But I digress. Somebody's bringing up Dr. Metzler. He digresses too. But, yeah. So I'm getting to the end here, about to wind it down. Oh, wait, nope, you still got other stuff here. Kamala's visit here in El Paso was hilarious. That processing center was just across the airport tarmac. It was a layover on her weekend trip to Los Angeles. I heard about that, yeah. And she's getting criticized. Representative Henry Cuellar, he represents border town, or border district, I should say. And he's been slamming the Biden administration ever since this migrant crisis started. Not even a Republican. He's a Democrat. But even he has been pointing out how badly they're handling this. And it sucks, because people are suffering because of it. Whatever you feel about immigration, legal or otherwise, most people are going to have a level of sympathy for how these people are being treated, especially the kids. It's disgusting. If you didn't see my live stream from last Friday, I go more in detail on how the kids are being treated. Take a look at that, because it's bad, and it's not being reported in the media. Only BBC News and CBS News reported on it. They did a whole investigation. They had staffers working at these facilities telling them about these kids being fed undercooked meat, undercooked chicken, COVID all over the place, lice, sexual abuse, rape. Yeah, it's that bad. That is what's happening to these migrant children who are being held in the El Paso area. All right. So thank you guys for joining. Sorry this one was a little bit shorter, but I'll be back to form later this week. Again, if you want to support my work, here are the links right here. Also, join my online community, afreshperspective.locals.com. I'm going to be putting some more video content on there, especially concerning critical race theory. I have been doing more reading on that, and I've got some interesting stuff to talk about. So that'll be behind the paywall. But until next time, keep your minds free.